Well, good morning, Mr. Rob Moody. How are you?
I'm super, Chantal. How about you?
I'm great, thank you. Morning for me, almost afternoon for you in the UK, but it's all good, right?
Surely is.
We always find time to speak to each other. Um, Today, we thought that we would talk about this interesting subject that we're hearing a lot about called IPMX. Should we talk about IPMX a little bit?
I think we should. Everyone else is. Don't want to miss out, do we?
Right? Right? It's coming up a lot. So let's start with IPMX. What is IPMX?
Right. It's a collection, a suite, if you like, of published standards and open specifications for moving high performance media over a network. IPMX is the Internet Protocol Media Experience.
Nice. Very, very nice. Internet Protocol Media Experience. So this is a suite of published standards and open specifications, right? That's a trite one-liner. Why do we want that?
Good question. The clue's in the name. It's all about moving that real-time media over the IP networks with due consideration given to the user experience. And in particular, recognizing that there are different sorts of users out there who want and need different sorts of experiences with their media. And we can characterize that as being a variation in their expectations for the image and sound quality, for the latency, for the delay, for the switching speed. And different users can and do have different needs. Some of those differences, of course, can be role dependent, and that means even within a single organization, we can have different sorts of users with different needs. And that, in turn, leads to a need for a media routing system, what we'd call AV over IP, that can support the needs of those different users, not just the current ones, but potential future ones as well. And that's what IPMX sets out to be a system with a variety of optional implementations to address different performance levels. And the system itself, of course, has got to be capable of doing the highest performance so that even if you don't want that but might do later, it can later.
I love that. I'm hearing options. I'm hearing taking care of your needs now and into the future. I think
Exactly.
everybody is going to love that, right?
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
talk, yeah, let's talk about the pedigree of IPMX. What's IPMX based on?
It's based on the experiences in the broadcast world. And in that world, naturally, they have to consider sharing of content from one broadcaster to another and holding and moving the content at the highest quality because they don't know what they're going to be asked to do next with that content. And they have to have global standards to make sure they can share the content amongst their peers, or as we would say, be interoperable. So IPMX is based on their top level standard, the top of the performance pyramid, if you like. That's called ST2110, which is a family of technical standards from SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. IPMX itself is an extension to that, a superset, if you will, based on and compatible with it at network level. And that's something that no other AV over IP scheme can claim. The others would all need to go by some baseband connection like SDI. That connection, really important. SD2110 has been about since 2017, so IPMX is actually based on something that is already very well proven and in service, which is a great place to start, especially if you want a smooth and no problems deployment.
Absolutely. I love starting with something that's already been proven, right? I mean, you're kind of not taking many risks there, so we like that. Um, we've been hearing a lot about, IPMX, and let's talk a little bit about the stakeholders because it's not. You have your Matrox shirt on, Rob, for those that are viewing. I have my Matrox shirt on. This is a Matrox podcast, but IPMX is not just a Matrox thing, is it?
You're right, it's not. And there's multiple stakeholders in the IPMX project paradigm, however you want to describe it. We've got vendors, we've got integrators, and we've got users. And amongst the vendors, we've got hardware and software people, as well as the underlying components that make it all up, the ASICs and the FPGAs. IPMX can be any or all of them, but it doesn't force you to use any particular brand or any particular component. Alongside those I've mentioned, we've also got the consultants from the academia. They've got interest in this as well. And that whole group that we've talked about there, they're the stakeholders. So not just Matrox.
Absolutely. And so, this IPMX situation does not automatically lead to a sale for Matrox Video, us, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is have options. So, what's in it for Matrox? What's in it for us, Rob?
Yeah, again, you're right on the money there. We don't own IPMX. That we don't get a guaranteed hidden sale. There is no Matrox chip in the middle, unlike some other AV over IP approaches that we might mention.
Mm.
It's an open standard, and an open standard means a bigger market, and that's good for all of the stakeholders, including us. And we at Matrox have always preferred to use open standards where we could, and now in this case, we're championing one. And much of our future product portfolio is leaning on the structure created by IPMX. Now, we're in very good position to champion it because we've got a lot of in-house experience with 2110. As we said, that's been running for a while. And many of the recognized names in the broadcast equipment world have got Matrox cards inside them, NICs, network interface cards. Names like VisRT, Dalet, Pebble Systems, and many more. That gives us the advantage that some of the big AV names haven't got. And that's what's in it for us. A technology that's A, good for us, and B, that we're good at. And that's good for all the other stakeholders, including the users and the integrators. Nice place to be.
I like the fact that we're thinking about the users and integrators. I think, they have a difficult enough job, so let's try to make it a little bit easier for them. So, we mentioned the other stakeholders before, but the fact is, this is not just a Matrox things. There are many, many other stakeholders. So, let's talk about them for a little bit. Who exactly is behind IPMX?
It's quite a sizable ecosystem,
Yes.
and it's an ecosystem made up of organisations. Organisations quite often have long names with short acronyms. So this turns into an alphabet soup, but let's walk our way through it. So
Let's.
IPMX, as we said, the IP Media Experience, and that is promoted by a group called AIMS, the Alliance
Mhm.
for IP Media Solutions, AIMS. SMPTE 2110 we mentioned, that's the published standard. Some would call it a true standard, produced, as we said, by SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. Additional to that comes Technical Recommendation Suite 10, TR10, and that comes from VSF, the Video Services Forum. Their recommendations define what is added to ST2110 to broaden its use cases to make IPMX applicable to the AV world, for example. Both 2110 and TR10 lean on something called NMOS, the Networked Media Open Specification, which comes from another organisation called AMWA, the Advanced Media Workflow Association. Why do we want that? NMOS is focused on the network elements like discovery and registration and control, vital parts to making things work together.
Mhm.
Mustn't forget to mention EBU, European Broadcasting Union, and AES, the Audio Engineering Society. They've all got direct interest in IPMX as well. So that's a lot of organisations made up largely of very technical people. We've got a complex contributory ecosystem. But what we can say is that none of them have got an alignment with any one particular manufacturer, and all of them are playing their part in the development of IPMX. It's an open approach, not a closed approach. And with all of those organisations we've got a mix of vendors, integrators, and end users from across the video and the audio industry. They are the stakeholders. And that's exactly how IPMX draws its strength to be open, flexible, interoperable, fit for the future, and all those other good things.
That is a lot of cooks in the kitchen, isn't it? It takes a lot of collaboration to have all of these people working together. And it's funny you mentioned it because I was speaking to somebody, a consultant, maybe last year, and I said, well, what do you know about IPMX? And he said, well, the way I see it is it's ST2110 with some mandatory requirements sprinkled on top for the ProAV market. And I thought that was just brilliant. It's a way of just simplifying what IPMX is. Now, you mentioned the AIMS, which is the Alliance for IP Media Solutions. The AIMS Alliance, is a stakeholder that's a little bit different from the others. So, what do they bring to the table?
Well, they've got the same technical viewpoint that all those other groups like the VSF and AMWA and so on have, but they've got an additional responsibility, and they're doing the management and the marketing of IPMX in this case. They've also got the remit to make it easy to use, and one of the ways that they're implementing that ease of use is through what we call profiles. Now, after all the standards and recommendations are made and adopted, there's a lot of value in making it easy to see what works with what. And you do that by grouping features. And those groups are called profiles, and that's something that AIMS is doing as well. The And one of the things about IPMX is that it's not a requirement that a product that is IPMX compatible supports all of the defined features. Yeah, the rules are if you support it, you must do it the IPMX way.
Yes.
So you might find that people are asking themselves, is this box IPMX compliant?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a better question than that. A better question is which parts of IPMX does it support? And that's what the profiles are addressing. You might, for example, say, does it support uncompressed UHD60? Can it support linear PCM audio? Does it work with JPEG XS and so on? Those would all be examples of profiles. And you might also say HDCP. It's not a requirement of IPMX that you must support HDCP, but if you do, you have to implement it the IPMX way. That's one of the things that makes it IPMX.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea of profiles, and it's sort of like endorsement badges, right? So if you have, as a manufacturer, a blue profile and you want to have an ecosystem with other manufacturers, you just want to make sure that they have all the blue labels or the blue endorsements so that you know that they work together in the same ecosystem. Is that sort of the idea here?
That makes it nice and simple, doesn't it? So that
Hmm.
if perhaps somebody who's not as technical as their colleagues is looking at it, let's say it's somebody processing orders in the processing department, but one of their remits is to make sure that these things work with each other. It's much easier to say red to red, green to green, than it is to say is this uncompressed or compressed.
Right. So, what we want to do ideally is add flexibility and options, but we don't want to make it more difficult. We want to actually make it easier for people who are setting these projects
Ex-
up.
Exactly, and this is now moving from the time when the only people who were looking at it were the engineers with in-depth technology knowledge to
Right.
everyone.
That's right. That's right. That's a lot of background. Thanks so much for that. So, what does it actually do for people? Why should anybody be interested in IPMX?
Well, remember the all the user types that we started with.
Yes.
It's often the way that the various AV over IP schemes that have been developed with a particular user in mind or a group of users in mind. And often they tend to match network bandwidth. For example, you'll recognise that quite often there's a 1 gig versus 10 gig debate that happens in discussing AV over IP.
Hmm.
And if the systems are well matched to one cluster, it's sort of inevitable that they don't particularly address the needs of another cluster. If it's designed for uncompressed everything, it's not going to work too well on a budget network that can't support uncompressed everything. IPMX is different. It can be deployed in several different modes and across multiple bandwidth networks, and that's a big value. It can match the network infrastructure you've got today, as well as the one you're moving to over time, including the time when you've got both of them active at the same time, because it
Mm.
supports all of them. Nice to do that. And as an extension of that, it allows support of different users' needs in the same system, because as we noted earlier, they can and do exist in the same organization. Examples of that: it can be super tightly timed for the very highest performance, or it can be really relaxed for a more economic deployment. And they both might exist in the same organization. And it allows users to substitute brands. IPMX devices, of necessity, are feature for feature interoperable with each other. That's one of the reasons we're doing it.
Hmm.
And it supports multiple shape factors. Some of these AV over IP systems were designed for camera inputs only. They only support 16 by 9 shape factors, even though displays today can be 16 by 10 and lots of others. A lot of projectors, for example, are native 16 by 10. And it supports HDCP across the network, even between different brands. These are all wonderful advantages that are barriers for some schemes. And that's
Mm.
why we talk quite often about IPMX building bridges rather than fences. It's not construction 101. Yes, this is useful stuff for the AV world.
I love the idea and the concept of building bridges. And you talked about schemes. This isn't just another AV over IP scheme, though, is it? You mentioned ST2110 and that it has its roots firmly in the broadcast space. We know this. But I'm noticing that we're seeing increasingly a lot of pro AV people at broadcast shows and vice versa. So is IPMX part of this narrative?
Absolutely is, yeah. I like to think of it as a common currency. It lets broadcast people introduce lower cost AV elements into their systems. And yeah, they're not immune to having their budgets trimmed. That's something they do want to do. And the flip side is that AV people can benefit from having technology that used to be in a higher tech environment, a different technology island, if you like. And I think it's probably fair to say that those two industries, broadcast and AV, are both big industries. Yeah, maybe it's a bit churlish to call them islands. Maybe we should call them continents and say, yeah,
Indeed.
we've got quite a substantial bridge here. It's an intercontinental bridge.
That's good. So I like, let's get back to this idea of bridge because um, broadcasters, let's think about broadcasters in ST2110. Are broadcasters the only ones that are using ST2110 and uncompressed video, or does this bridge go to more than one place?
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of people using ST2110, and a lot of people that think it's only the broadcasters that are using it.
Mhm.
So let's see if we can clear that one up. There's multiple sectors that quite simply don't want any processing to happen to their video. Medical is a good example. A very minor change in an image can result in a different and potentially wrong diagnosis.
Mhm.
Yet that's obviously got life and death implications as well as probably litigation dimensions if you get it wrong.
Yes.
Another group of people, those who are working with images that are not natural video. Video compression codecs tend to be developed for natural videos, what most video is. And people who've got images that are not natural video have to ask themselves, what's going to happen to my video? Who knows what a codec that is excellent for sports video is going to make of a biological process that's being looked at down a microscope? Um, and that's an important point. Video doesn't have to be clinically perfect for users to benefit from knowing that it's not been changed in some way. Let's say it's intelligence footage. You might not know what that pixel is, but that pixel might be important. You don't want it changed, or maybe it's astronomical imagery. Let's say, who knows what's out there in the great beyond? But yeah, the image you've got, you don't want changed. Let's say. Um, Another example, we've all heard of artificial intelligence analyzing medical images and making diagnosis that clinicians couldn't see, which is obviously a wonderful benefit.
Mhm.
There's not much chance of it happening if a codec has removed all the things that the clinicians couldn't see.
That's right.
So,
That
long
could be a
story,
problem.
it could. Long story short, 2110 facilities exist in many non-broadcast video establishments: banks, insurance companies, pharmaceuticals, top-flight sports clubs, educational establishments, houses of worship. So definitely not the exclusive provision of the broadcast world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. There's many, many industries that are setting up even mini studios, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So IPMX has a very wide range of uses.
Surely does, and yeah, that's the strength it brings to the party. Yeah, it's not a one trick pony.
It's not a one-trick pony. It offers flexibility and options. Thank you so much, Mr. Rob Moody. This was
My
so much
pleasure.
fun.
We must do it again.
We will absolutely do it again.
See you next time then.
You betcha. Bye bye now.
Bye now.